I want to lift this off. And there it is.
Hey, we're Jenny and Rich, and our stowaway is Twitchell the Marina Cat. We've been documenting the refit of our 1977 Toyota 37 Ramble on for the past several years. I don't think there's a single part of this boat that we haven't repaired, replaced, or improved in some way. We're proud to say we've done 99.9% of the work ourselves. We've gained a lot of knowledge and experience in the process, and we're happy to pass that wisdom on.
All right, so a few weeks ago we released a video with us unboxing the new Perkins parts, the heat exchanger and the oil cooler. And if you haven't seen it, we got the engine pulled out, and we also did all the bilge prep in that area underneath the engine and got all that area cleaned up. We had every intention of putting that Perkins back together and then sticking it in here because we had no idea when we were going to get our Beta engine. So like 2 days after we unboxed those Perkins parts, we ended up getting a phone call from Beta Marine West, and they told us our engine is in the UK and it was getting ready to be on a plane to land in San Francisco. So we went and picked that thing up, and now we got two engines sitting down in the trailer. I borrowed a template. It's like a jig with engine mounts, and it also has a transmission shaft coupling coming out the back for lining up the engine beds. And as it turns out, we're quite a bit shorter with the old Perkins mounts than where the new Beta sits. So I've got a limited amount of head clearance in between on that underneath that engine cover, and also it looks like the propeller shaft. Obviously the transmission on the Velvet drive is longer than the TM60 gearbox that we got on the Beta. So there's going to be some alignment issues. I'm going to have to build up the beds and figure out how this motor is going to sit in here and line up with the existing prop shaft. So we're probably going to have to put something together as far as a temporary shaft coupling until we can get this thing motored over and hauled out to do some work on the bottom. And at that point, I'd like to pull the shaft, check out the cutlass bearing, make sure everything's good, check out the stuffing box. Somebody mentioned that that GFO packing isn't so great in salt water, something about the noble metal scale, and then it chews up on stainless steel shafts, but we'll see. Better safe than sorry, but we'll get to that when we get to it. But for right now, I've got some lumber, some shims, some stuff like that, and we're going to try and get this engine set up and leveled and lined, and we'll see where we go from there. So we're trying to line up the engine beds, and I'm getting all paranoid inside the thing using a template here. So it looks like we're really going to be high. We have to add like 3 inches to the engine beds and then still have maybe a 1/4 of an inch adjustment within the motor mount. To the highest point of the motor, that's going to be this sticking up. Our beds and I put a digital gauge on the propeller shaft, and we're at 12.7 degrees. So the motor sits basically like that. So at that point, this nut here is going to be the highest point of the engine, kicked back to 12 degrees. And I needed to check. Yeah, we got the shallow sump. I did not order the deep sump. Oh shit. We did get the deep sump. Well, I don't think it matters because we're raising the beds up so high. I don't remember ordering the deep sump, because the deep sump is 10 7/16 to the very bottom of the drain plug. Yeah, we got the deep sump.
That's gonna be a problem now too?
I hope not. Sorry if there's any background noise. We got the air conditioner on because it's like 100 degrees out right now. But this is sort of what I came up with, jimmying it around. So 2 2x4s and a 5/8 piece of plywood, about 3.5 inches, that I've got to raise this thing up to get these this shaft lined up with our existing prop shaft. The further you move this thing forward, the taller the engine gets to where it's actually sticking out of the top of here. We wouldn't even be able to get the lid on this thing. The engine is shoved way back. I'm probably going to have to modify a portion of that rear bulkhead back there in order to fit the exhaust elbow. Probably won't be able to go with the same wet muffler that we have right now because we've got the oil removal pump on that side of the motor. It looks like the shaft couplings will mate up and we won't have to have any kind of extension fabricated. But if I set this thing here, I've got to be at 6 inches ahead of the center line of the forward motor mount right here. That engine is almost touching this foil. So it gives me, I got about 1/4 of an inch to mess with. And I can go down a little bit with the motor mounts and there'll be some engine alignment. Additionally, I checked the invoice and the deep sump is standard. It's a special order if you want the shallow sump. But at this location right here, 10.5 inches, and it's, so I got plenty of room. It's 10.5 inches deep to the bottom of the oil pan, as well as at 5 inches off of the center line of the motor. So measuring from here, I put a piece of blue tape and measured the center line. So at this point, that oil exchange hose is going to have plenty of room right there. So back here at this distance, I put a mark on the thing where the very back of the oil pan goes. And that, again, that'll be at just ballparking it at 4 inches to right there. I've literally got that much clearance, like 1/2 inch from touching the fiberglass of the hull right there. So as you can see back there, the taper, the way the engine sits at 13 degrees or so, the hull rises in the exact opposite direction. So these were mitered and scarfed in and tapered to fit the curvature of the bilge on both sides. So we went to Macbeth and picked up some 8/4 sapele, and same stuff I built the Samson posts out of like 7 or 8 years ago when I built that bowsprit. It was like maybe 7 years ago. So I ripped some down, ripped it into 2 3-inch widths. This is about 2 15/16. And I'm going to have to clean everything off down to bare wood on the very top of this these stringers, and then I'm thinking I'm going to laminate them and screw them to the top once I get it all carved out and fitted, and I can slide it back. I think our crankshaft pulley was like right here, and thusly it sat way lower on the beds. So I've got to build this thing up. I mean, it's incredible, 3.5 inches to raise this up. Well, I'll tell you, the lesser of the two evils would be to modify the entire exhaust outlet system as opposed to modifying the propeller shaft. Tomorrow I'm going to carve and hack on these things and whip up some thickened epoxy and see if I can get these things fastened down so to give them some time to cure this week. I'm glad I had this thing because it really solved a lot of problems. I'm going to make one of my own, a little more crude, out of wood, use our own motor mounts, get everything lined up, and then I can utilize that after the epoxy's cured and everything, and then I can really start fiddle farting around, but I got to get this thing back to beta. Okay, so there ain't a really good way to do this, so I'm going to try and shave the paint off the engine beds to get them down to bare wood, and then I'll have to do some surface prep before I can laminate the new lumber I got for the beds. So we're going to make a little tent and blow a fan through here and see, I guess, see what happens, and then vacuum up the mess out of our clean bilge. So I'm just hacking away at this, roughing it in to get to the shape of where the hull rises up as the beds dive down. So just little by little hacking on it, and I'm going to need a little bit of, I'm going to sand up this area right in here. This is how this fits right now. So it's pretty darn close, and I think I'm really kind of hewing in on where it needs to be. I'm trying to get a good stable connection between the hull and the new timber. This is pretty much where I'm sitting after I scarfed in these stringers. Lining everything up side to side and up and down, it seems to have shoved everything out of the original alignment of those beds. I do have a little bit of wiggle room, but this is where they're going to have to be epoxied and screwed down to the existing stringers. So I'm off by like, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch at this point, but the shaft couplings look really good. I'm pretty much ballparked in where I need to be, minus a turn or two on the nuts to level it and adjust it. So made a big mess in the bilge, got to vacuum up some sawdust. That's it, we're done. I'm pooped, done for the day.